there's a rally happening in Detroit to stop the genocide that is taking place, of course, in Iraq. We've all heard about the Chaldeans. Tell us, Pamela, what exactly, what media coverage they've had on this and what exactly is going on with this story.
Well, they've had absolutely no media coverage, and they are not unique in this. Just last Sunday, my organization held a rally in New York's Union Square. It was a rally in support of Israel and all persecuted minorities under Islam. I had a leader from the Yazidis in Iraq. You know what's happening to them. They're being slaughtered in mass. The girls are being brutally raped so bad, so violently that they throw themselves off the mountain. They kill themselves afterward. We had a leader from the Hindus who, as you know, literally close to 100 million Hindus have been killed in jihadi wars, land appropriations, cultural annihilations, and enslavements. We had a leader from the Coptic Christians of Iraq, Ashraf Ramallah, who's the president of Voice of the Copts. We had a parade of leaders and speakers and human rights activists representing persecuted minorities from across the world. Thousands of people came and no media covered it. It's all on YouTube for those of you who are interested in seeing it. But this is part and parcel of the media's Sharia compliance. The media self enforces the Sharia, Dr. Gina. They will not criticize Islam. They will not offend Islam. They will not acknowledge the ideology, the jihadic doctrine behind the motive in this holy war, in this jihad against freedom and non believers, non Muslim. And look, Obama has consistently denied the jihad threat outside of Al Qaeda, who he called, what was that again? Oh, yeah, the junior varsity team. Well, let me tell you about that junior varsity team. The Islamic State is a satellite of that junior varsity team, and Al Shabaab is a satellite of that, junior varsity team. It's all of a piece. ISIS, the Islamic State, is Hamas in Gaza, is Boko Haram in Nigeria, is Hezbollah in Lebanon. It is the global jihad, and we, my dear friend, are in grave danger as we continue to deny the reality of this very brutal and bloodthirsty enemy.
I hear you on all of this, and I follow the work that you do. And I have to admit that I'm one of those who I get so caught up in what is happening domestically that it's sometimes hard to take the time to learn the geography, to understand the different groups, to understand exactly what's happening. It feels very foreign, I think, for people to try to understand this issue. And yet, I learned this weekend. I can't believe I didn't know this, but this is admitting my ignorance here and hoping that you can help people understand the history here. I learned that it was FDR that knew exactly what was happening in Nazi Germany, for example, and refused to destroy the railroad tracks that would have kept the Jews from going to slaughter, refused to do it. It was not reported. And of course, we all know the end of that story. It wasn't just Jews that were killed. Lots of Chaldeans killed there as well, lots of Christians. And now we're seeing a repeat, essentially, aren't we, of what has happened historically. And most of us are too tuned out to things like Ferguson and other things taking place domestically to even understand. Pamela, can you put this in historic perspective for us and help us understand the degree to which our reality is truly threatened, like 9/11 or worse?
Well, it is worse than 9/11, frankly, and I'm not the only one to say that. Many generals have said the same thing because we're denying the threat. And you're 100% right. FDR did not bomb the tracks. Look, the tracks is still intact. One only has to, go to the camps, go to Auschwitz. The tracks are still there, and it really meant diverting the planes only 5 miles. The fact is, you can avoid reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding reality, and that's what we're doing. The Obama administration has literally whitewashed and scrubbed jihad and the Islamic doctrine of jihad from all counterterrorism training materials. You're disarming the American people. And if the American people are caught up in Ferguson, it's because the media is made that the story. No matter what the reality is, no matter whether he attacked the policeman or not, no matter what the true reality is, or the reality that, young black men are being killed in their own communities every day by other young black men, that's not the story. That's not the narrative. And of course, you can avoid the story, but until something horrible happens. Part of the work that I do is trying to save people in other countries and trying to save the United States from what is obviously and most assuredly coming. And it won't be pretty. I tell you, Dr. Gina, I have seen the future, brother. It is murder. And we are disarming the American people at our own great risk. And I thank you for taking up this subject because you will submit yourself to a campaign of scorn and derision and marginalization, and you will be demonized as a quote unquote Islamophobe, which is ridiculous. Of course, there are moderate Muslims that don't engage in jihad. That's not the problem. The problem is there is a problem in Islam. And the playbook that every one of these various groups are playing by is the same playbook. It is the jihadic doctrine, it is the Quran. And the fact is, you can change the name, but it all means the same thing. I mean, Hezbollah, what does that mean? It means party of Allah. And Boko Haram's real name is the party of proselytizing, of preaching, and of the Sunni. And that's another thing, Dr. Gina. People don't understand when, people will say, well, they're killing other Muslims, so they're really not Muslim. No, that's not what it's about. The Sunni versus Shia, and understand Sunni Muslim is 88% of the world population. Shia is 12%. Shia is Iran. Sunni is Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, Al Qaeda. And what they're fighting about is who is a true Muslim. That's what that fight is. Who is the authentic Muslim? Because after Muhammad died, there was an argument as to who should, take over the reins. Was it someone related to Muhammad, or was it someone who understood Islam and studied Islam? That's the fight that they're still having 1400 years later, is who is a true Muslim. That is why you see the Islamic State grilling their potential victims with questions about the Quran, the testing of their knowledge of Islam.
We remember George Bush calling
It's all about
calling
Islam. Why can't
remember
we
George
say
Bush
that?
calling Islam the religion of peace. Since then, we hear similar contentions by other politicians, and some are saying the answer is to stay out of these other countries. We have, of course, the Ron Paul folks, many of them saying we shouldn't be interfering in what's going on in other countries. Some are saying, oh, just airlift the Christians out of there and then leave Iraq to its own doom. What do you say is the answer right now? What's the answer, Pamela?
Well, I certainly would not have gotten us into this fix that we're in. The fact is, Obama has denied it has anything to do with jihad, despite its name, and he's unprepared to face the threat of Islamic State that he created by abandoning Iraq. So I have to say that I would not be in this fix. But be that as it may, I certainly would not be giving aid. 2/3 of all foreign aid that America gives is to Islamic nations, many under the Sharia. I wouldn't support that. I would certainly open up immigration to persecuted minorities, Christians, Chaldeans, Yazidis, Jews, Hindus, Zoroastrians. Every persecuted minority would be granted emergency asylum in this country. But what we're doing is the opposite. The Obama administration is importing whole Muslim communities from jihadi nations. That's a mistake, okay? I would support countries that, exercise political freedom. I wouldn't give one American dime to any country that oppressed its people. And the idea of this isolationism, this Ron Paulism, is ridiculous. First of all, this is not a time where oceans separate us. Those days are over. They're finding prayer rugs and Al Qaeda manuals on the border, particularly with this new influx of undocumented, of illegal aliens. You can run, but you cannot hide. You will not be able to hide from this. What's next is anybody's guess. We don't know. Are they here? Absolutely, they're here. Do we stand with Sisi in Egypt? Yes. They're fighting a terrorist group, but that's not what Obama's doing, Dr. Gina. Obama has abandoned those people, and he punishes the Egyptians for throwing off the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, absolutely true. Amazingly, California is opposing the resolution to rescue the Christians. It's truly unbelievable. Thank you for being with us. Pamela Geller of AtlasShrugs.com.